All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to the second edition of Pop Culture Power. I am your host, Crystal Jordan, with from Crystal XO, and I am excited. I'm excited about today's show. First of all, we had a great first show last Friday, and we had a great winner. Congratulations again to Tendai, who won a great beauty pack. And I am back this week with the opportunity for you to win again. So before we start everything else, I want to remind you that this is Pop Culture Power. I'm so excited I can't talk. It's Pop Culture Power, and we are here every Friday at noon to kind of help you guys work through your lunch hour. So it is going to be conversations about pop culture through my literary lens. If you guys don't know, I am a senior editor for Lennox and Parker. We are a cultural magazine that focuses on Black excellence and everything that includes. And I'm actually honored to be able to write for two Black-owned publications because I feel like it allows me the opportunity to share my voice in a very authentic way. So, editor-in-chief for Lennox and Parker, I'm going to be sharing with you a story that I am writing for that magazine. I'm also going to be sharing with you, you guys know I have been with rolling out another Black-owned publication, the largest Black-owned publication that is weekly. We have a weekly magazine. You can go to the site at rollingout.com and see all kinds of things from business to entertainment to politics to just trending stories and, of course, relationships that I cover. So that's all at rollingout.com. And then last but not least, I am a features writer for Collider. And Collider allows me to talk about reality TV, reality romance on TV in an amazing way. So I have some conversations from a couple of pieces from Collider this week as well. So before we get started with that, I want to make sure that you know that you can win. We're doing a giveaway every week to increase our subscription. So I want to remind you right now to go ahead and click that bell button and subscribe. This week, we are giving away a fedora. I have a partnership with Lennox and Parker and also Olive and Tony, a women's boutique. And they are allowing me to give away these beautiful fedoras. And you guys know fedoras are great for adding a little pop, adding a little pomp and circumstance to your outfit. Actually, you know, when I went to see Erica Badu last month, she is, I think, one of the people that does fedoras correctly. She has a list of them that she wears with different things in her beautiful braids. But yes, this beautiful fedora or another one could possibly be yours. So make sure that you, number one, subscribe, and then make sure that you comment in the chat, hashtag PCP, to let me know that you were here for Pop Culture Power, and then let me know which of the stories resonated with you the most. And so I would love, we'll get that out. We will announce the winner on next Friday's edition of Pop Culture Power. Okay. So today's episode is, even though we talk about pop culture power, I am dedicating this episode today to women, specifically women of color, because if you guys don't know, which you probably don't because I did not, this month is the National Underground Railroad Month. I never even knew that was a thing. But I had the unique opportunity to travel this past weekend to Auburn, New York, which was the homestead of Harriet Tubman. It's where the Underground Railroad, one of the stops for the Underground Railroad was there, and she actually lived there and had a family there. It's where she did a lot of her work, and she actually passed away there as well. And so I had this unique opportunity to go to her home. I got a chance to like touch the door and walk on the ground of which she had, not only her personal home, but then there also was a home behind her home that was for wounded soldiers and also the aging. And of course, we got a chance to go through one of the tunnels that actually was a part of the Underground Railroad. So I am full of just history and pride. And I feel like connecting with our ancestors is always a way for us to get a better understanding of really who we are. So I'm going to start with that story. That, of course, is going to be in Lennox and Parker and Rolling Out magazines. There's going to be variations of my stories in both of those. But I want to show you all, I want to show you her actual. Um, there's a statue there in Auburn, New York, that is beautiful, of Miss Harriet Tubman, actually. And then we went ahead and went to, of course, her gravesite, which is under a beautiful tree that was planted there. And what was so special about this trip was that I got a chance to share it with some amazing women, some other female journalists, Brenda Alexander, Jocelyn Davis, Corinne, Sister Mutique, and Karen. Oh, I mean, it was just an amazing time to be able to spend time with other women that also have the power of their pen, right? And so we're able to bring light and shed light to some of these stories. Now, one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys from my perspective about Harriet Tubman is the fact that I did not know that Harriet Tubman, I knew she was married later, right? Because we've seen the movies that are out. But what I didn't know is that her husband, Nelson Davis, first of all, she was madly in love with her husband. And it was interesting because, as you guys know, if you watch this channel, you know that I have a book titled Dear Alpha Female, It's Not Him, It's You. And I do a lot of conversations about the fact that strong women, which I know so many women of color are, not just Black women, but also just women of color, and just really women, because women are just amazing as a whole. But a lot of times when we see a woman who's very accomplished and we see a woman who is very celebrated, we either hear that she is by herself or she's painted to be this isolated figure, right? And that's why this narrative, I believe that's part of this narrative, that strength is a negative thing when it comes to women, specifically Black women, right? And so it was just interesting to me as we sat down with Papa Freeman, a man that is there, just kind of like a historian in Auburn, New York, and his family was intricately involved with Harriet Tubman's family. He has amazing pictures, and he was just like a wealth of information for us. Just this handsome, regal man in his 70s, and he sat down and talked to us. The six of us, about the fact that Harriet was madly in love with her husband. There was this beautiful love story that we were left out of, and I think needs to be a part of Harriet Tubman's legacy. And so, dare I, Crystal Jordan, relationships editor for Rolling Out, editor in chief for Lennox and Parker, wants to add some light to that part of her story. Because in addition to being this woman that was driven to help her people, she also was madly in love with a husband that shared her passion and was right beside her in the struggle and in that fight. And the proof of that is that Nelson was one of the founders of Juneteenth. He actually left Auburn and went to Texas to announce that the slaves were free and started Juneteenth. So not only was this her husband, this was the love of her life, but he was also obviously very involved in the work that she was doing. And so you'll have to check out those articles. Both the article showing the different things and the different celebrations of her birth, her homestead, that are enrolling out, and then also her love story, right, with her husband, because I wanted to get some more information after talking to Papa Freeman. I just had so many more questions about why we are, shown this iconic figure, but we always see her in solidarity. And I feel like, for myself, we as Black women are consistently seeing that if we want to be married, if we want to have a beautiful relationship, we're not able to do that. We have to kind of dull our shine. If we want a relationship, we have to pick one or the other. And so to hear that Harriet Tubman, this figure that we constantly see, just looking, first of all, we only see her in her, either in her young, and when she's very young, or when she's very old, but we always see her alone, right? And we know that history is learned by the people that teach it to us. And so I think that that is one of the things that I am so honored and excited about. That's why I love the opportunity to do things like this and talk to you guys, and also just to write, because it allows us to take control of our history and to share it from an authentic perspective. So I want you just to think about that, of all the the images of Harriet Tubman that you've seen, how differently could that have affected you if you had seen her as a married woman who was equally committed and in love, most importantly, just in love, like not just committed, but she was absolutely in love with her husband, and would mention, that she was his last name, that she was Davis, and in addition to Tubman. So I just want to share that with my sisters out there, because I know so many of us, we actually had a beautiful conversation, several beautiful conversations. Shouts out to Sister Mutique for leading some of those conversations with the beautiful women I had a chance, the powerful women I had a chance to hang out with in Auburn. But how different would we be as little girls that grow up to be Black women if we were able to see different images, right? Not just an image of a woman by herself, struggling, fighting it out, but actually a woman being loved on and being empowered to do what she does because she's being poured into. So I just want to share that with you guys. And although that's not necessarily pop culture, I think it should be our pop culture. This should be the pop culture that we are talking about as African Americans. So if you want to hear more about that or learn how you can actually travel to Auburn, New York, and learn more about Harriet's story, Harriet's true story, there'll be information both on Lennox and Parker and on Rolling Out. All right. So moving on. I have another story that I believe is pop culture as well that I did for Rolling Out, and this is about a dear friend of mine. I had the opportunity to write a story about a good friend of mine, Tierney Gundy, and Tierney is not only, when you first see Tierney, she's this beautiful woman who's extremely accomplished, right? She is a judge in Atlanta. She's been a philanthropist. She's been an activist here. But most importantly, everyone knows that she, went to, a predominant HBCU, graduated and became a very, very impactful attorney, and then eventually a judge. And she has a new book. This is a copy of her book. It's titled The Daughter of a Junkie. And the beautiful thing about Rolling Out is I get a chance to tell the story of other authors. I do a session there called Author to Author with Sisters for Superpowers. And Tierney was definitely an example of a sister with amazing superpowers. So Tierney's book is titled The Daughter of a Junkie, A True Love Story. Again, I'm going to show you that cover because you should definitely pick this book up. But the most interesting thing in this, that my interview with Tierney is going to be here on this channel and also on Rolling Out later this week. Well, actually at the end of this week. So when you see this, you can actually go right to Rolling Out and pick up a copy of and download a copy of that article, and then of course get a copy of her book. But the beautiful thing about Tierney's story is that, again, she's shattering the myths of who we are, right? So she grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and later moved to Atlanta. But her father, she talks about her mother and father and their struggle, and her father struggled with drug addiction. Well, if you watch this channel and you've heard me talk before, you may have heard me share that my father struggled and eventually passed away from a drug addiction. And although I wasn't in my father's life on a regular basis, when he died, I really had to, it was a big part of why I was so driven, a big part of why I was an overachiever. And the idea of my father being unable to kick a drug habit and passing away in a very dishonorable way, in my opinion, at 57 years old from a crack addiction has really, it's been something that has been a hurtful thing for me. I was able to make peace with it, but talking to Tierney and hearing her story and hearing how she was able to find a way early on as a little girl, because her father was there and she saw his struggle, but most importantly, she also saw the fact that as a proud Black man, he loved his family, he loved his daughters, her and her sister and their mom. She was able to see this and to realize that She did not need to judge her father ever by his weaknesses, but instead celebrate him for all his strengths and the fact that he loved her unconditionally. And I think when children feel love from a parent unconditionally, it enables them to love unconditionally as well. And one of the things about Tyranny that I love so much is the fact that she's always an advocate for loving on Black men and for realizing that we've all been through a lot in our time here as African Americans. There's so much that has been passed down. Our story is very different than other cultures and other races, and so one of the things that we have to do as Black women is to empower and celebrate, and most importantly, love on Black men. So her story is beautiful. It's a one of tenacity. I mean, I would definitely describe my friend as being very tenacious, always smart. And another thing that I love about Tierney is the fact that although she is drop dead gorgeous, she's always led with her brain, right? And she's always insisted that people respect her and see past the aesthetic, right? Because we're in a culture that is very focused on aesthetic. And she just proves that you can be a beautiful woman who can also be very intelligent and can lead with that. But, don't forget what happens when I step out this house. So kudos to her. And like I said, I love the way that she approached this story because I don't think I've ever, and I told her this in our interview, and you can see more of that on Rolling Out. But I said to her, I don't think that I've ever been given the right to love my father without. Um, Through just my love for him and not in place of or in spite of his weakness. I've never been able to do that. And so her conversation and me reading this book allowed me to just be able to love my father without the but. There is no but. And seeing the way she loves her father, seeing the way she accepted him for who he is, and she's been able to still interact with him and still have him as probably one of the most important people, if not the most important person in her life, is remarkable. And it's just a story that I'm so proud that I got a chance to celebrate. So make sure you check out my story on my sister's Tyranny Gundy. For any of you out there that maybe like myself or like Tierney or even Marie from Bell Collective that I've done some stories on, and we're going to be collaborating with her as well. But any of you that are out there that may have dealt with a parent or a sibling struggling with drug addiction, I encourage you to reach out because we want to have we're going to be doing some events to basically just, love on each other and share our experiences. I will tell you all that I did not even share with people about my father because for initially when he passed away, he died from an overdose. I was extremely embarrassed about the things that he was struggling with. But I have been able to, learn. I did some intense work with Alcoholics Anonymous and learned exactly, a little bit more about addiction so that I was able to see it as an illness, and not as a weakness. But even if he did have a weakness, it didn't mean that he did not deserve love. And unfortunately, my father passed away not realizing that he did deserve love. But I think that this book and this conversation is so important. So those of us that are out there that are children of drug addicts or alcohol, people addicted to alcohol or anything that is difficult for children to deal with, need to know that it's okay to love those parents. Yes, we do have a different struggle than a lot of other people, but at the end of the day, there is the ability to do anything that you want. This beautiful woman became a judge and is one of the most impactful women I know. So make sure that you check out The Daughter of the Junkie, A True Love Story by Tyranny Gundy. And of course, visit Rolling Out and Alex Parker to learn a little bit more about her story. Okay, now moving on to some pop culture that I know you guys are going to be excited about. I have a story coming out in Collider about Love is Blind. If you guys have watched the show, this is the 5th season of Love is Blind. And it is extreme, just like each season. This one starts with a lot of drama and a lot of mess. But, hey, this is, let me see if we can. Yes, there we go. Love is Blind. Love is Blind is back on Netflix. Season 5 is out. If you are a binge watcher like myself, you have probably already binged the entire season, or at least what's available. There is a new episode airing, I think, today. But I want to just say, so my article in Love is in Collider about Love is Blind basically shatters this myth that on reality TV we are ever going to see anything that resembles unconditional love, not based on the aesthetic. And so I really kind of dived into the past 5 episodes of Love is Blind. And I talk about, I mean, been some extremely interesting couples. It started with the first season where there was a young man who was bisexual, and that came out. And of course, that relationship didn't work. There's also always couples that are that connect in the pods when they're not able to see each other, and then when they do see each other, one one of the singles may be disappointed, and if that's the case, there's always an issue. There's also always an issue of when people see what the person looks like that they didn't have as strong of an emotional connection with, but when they see that person and they're more attracted to that person than they are to their significant than the person that they chose. So my verdict on this is love is not blind. It's a cool concept. It's a cool social experiment, but I do not believe that love is blind. And so I came from the angle of love is blind unless you are not attracted to the person that you choose, right? So if you have this deep connection, this deep emotional connection in the pods, and then you come out of the pods and you see something on the other side of that screen when they do the big reveal, and you're not attracted to that person, it's not going to work. And unfortunately, Nick and Vanessa Lachey, as attractive as they are and as cute as they are as a couple, they are not able to convince me or anyone else, I think, in the Netflix audience, that love is actually blind. I do think that there is something to actually really like connecting on an emotional level and allowing that to lead. But ultimately, love is not blind. Ultimately, we fall in love with people because of all the things that they are. We fall in love with them because of who they are internally. We fall in love with who they are, aesthetically, and how we digest that. If it's something that if we like the way they look, I think it can be enhanced by an emotional connection. But I'm just going to say at the end of the day, I do think that people need to have some type of attraction, right? It never works when one person is totally not attracted to the other person. And I'm going to say, I think that it works even less if the man isn't totally attracted to the woman. You guys know that in addition to Love is Blind, which is one of the shows I really enjoy, I also am a big fan of Married at First Sight. And every season on Married at First Sight, we see grooms that may not be attracted to their bride. And when they're not, the relationship goes down quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? So my assessment, and you guys can let me know what you think. I would love for you, when you are filling out when you're doing your hashtag PCP, let me know what you think. Do you agree that love is blind? Do you think that there are people that can fall in love based on purely an emotional connection, and not the aesthetics? Or do you agree with me that love is not blind? Especially in today's world, because I think today's culture, we know that we can have, we're taught, right, that we can have what we want. We're taught to judge people based on not just their outside appearance, but also their accomplishments. And so I don't think that love is enough to maintain a relationship if all those other variables aren't included. So that's my perspective. Let me know what you think. Visit collider.com, and see if you agree with my article. Like I said, I do a bit of a deep dive to kind of see some of the couples that have been, train wrecks because of attraction, and then even some of the ones that have worked. There was a beautiful couple that worked on last season, and I think the reason that they worked is because they were both very attracted to each other. To Nick and um, Vanessa's point, or to their benefit, they do really attempt to get a crop of very attractive singles. So that's another thing that's a little hypocritical about the show, because you see that everyone there is very slim, very in shape, very physically appealing. Now, there may be variations of that, but for the most part, most people are very attractive, or at least come from an attractive place. And then, of course, your personal preferences are going to weigh in after that. But for the most part, most people come and they fit the overall standard, right? And then you kind of go for there. You see the guys there's a lot of muscles, a lot of tall guys. There are some shorter guys. And, just if you check out my article, you will see that in most cases, those shorter guys or those smaller guys, or the ones that, are a little bit physically awkward, are usually the ones that are left at the end of the experiment. So even though we enjoy watching Love is Blind, mm-mm, mm-mm, I don't think Love is Blind at all. In fact, Love has magnifying glasses and is able to pick up flaws regardless of intimate emotional connection or not. So that is an article I want you guys to check out. Let me know, like I said in the comments, hashtag PCP, is love blind, yes or no? I'm going to put up a poll later today for you guys to vote on this channel. But most importantly, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you meet me here. If there are television shows that deal with reality and love and romance that you would love for me to talk about, leave that in the comments. I love hearing back from you guys. Lastly, I'm going to get out of here a little early because I've got a big day today, but I want to thank everybody that came here and watched. Even if you didn't make it the entire way through, I want to thank you for watching. I want to ask you please to subscribe and become a part of this community, become a part of this network. My goal is to make sure that I deliver information that is important to those of us that are trying to live our best lives, that are trying to live in excellence, but also want a little entertainment. I know tonight is exciting because we have Tequila from Ready to Love is going to be on with me as we talk about the reunion, the first part of the Ready to Love reunion on OWN. This season has been extremely interesting. I will say interesting. I would say disappointing, but every season is different, and I don't think it's fair to judge one against another. But I do think this season has been interesting, and I don't think that we really saw many love connections, if at all. We had Phil on earlier this week, and I really, really loved the way he approached even being rejected. I hate to say it that way, but that's what it was. He, at the end of his journey, the lady that he had kind of, fallen for, decided that they weren't a good match, and he handled it with such grace and leadership. I think it was a great example of manhood. So if you have not seen my conversation with Phil, make sure that you go through the archives and check that out, and make sure that you're tuned in tonight at 10 o'clock for my conversation with Tequila. Tequila was on earlier in the season and really just felt like she got a bad edit, that things didn't go her way when it came to the editing. And so we want to have a really honest conversation with her about some of the things that she experienced, and of course the experience of going through this reunion. So tune in tonight for Ready to Love. The first part of the reunion airs on OWN at 8 p.m. And then at 10 p.m., we're sitting down with Tequila and talking to her about her experience from the entire from the time that she sat down in the mansion mixer to the time that she came back ready in her birds of a feather outfit for the reunion. So make sure that you tune in. Again, thank you for watching. Make sure that you leave PCP and your vote on is love blind or not, because you can win this beautiful fedora. You just have to be subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much to Olive and Tony for being our partner in this giveaway to make sure that we can secure more subscribers and just really cater to our audience. I love being able to do things to interact with our audience. Last but not least, make sure you visit Lennox and Parker. Make sure you subscribe to their newsletter. Make sure you visit rollingout.com for all the latest news and gossip and cultural awareness. And of course, if you're into television and movies like I am, make sure that you visit collider.com. Check out my stories on reality TV. And there's so many more amazing writers that, take different perspectives on television and movies. So I'm so proud to be a part of that. One of the things about all three of these magazines that I am really proud of is that they actually are really about good writing. They're about solid writing. Lennox and Parker is about a beautiful cultural literary experience. Rolling Out is the eye of Black entertainment. We tell it from a perspective of being a part of the culture. And of course, Collider is for that intellectual reader that likes to dissect and take apart television, is really into thought, plot, character development, and all those amazing things that writers enjoy. So if you enjoy writing or you enjoy watching television, I think that you will definitely enjoy the stories and the perspectives on collider.com. All right. Well, I will see you guys later tonight. I pray that you have a beautiful end of your week today. And as always, I hope you've enjoyed the power of pop culture through my literary lens right here Friday at noon, every Friday, talking about the different things going on in pop culture through my perspective with the magazines that I write for. I love you guys for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.